ever spotted a big black bird and thought, is that a crow or a raven? In this video, we're going to break down every single raven and crow species that you'll find in the US with detailed field marks, range, and separation tips. Whether you're on the coast, the desert, or deep in the mountains, this guide has you covered. So the common raven is the first one that we've got, and it's the biggest out of all the crows and ravens in the United States. We got a large black bird with a very thick bill, and then it's also got some feathers on the bill right here. Overall pretty black and shiny. It's also got some shaggy neck feathers right here. And then when they're flying, their tail is in a wedge shape, which we'll pay more attention to later in the video. As far as range goes, more of a western bird. They like to be found in the mountains, so not necessarily a bird of the desert in this case. And they're also found in the far north. They come down here in the Appalachian Mountains a bit. Typically, they're always going to be found in higher elevation though. When they're flying, typically not really going to be flapping a whole lot because they're a bigger bird, so they prefer to glide. And then they also have very deep, more of like a croak when it comes to their voice. Next one is the Chihuahuan Raven, native to the Chihuahuan Desert, of course. You're probably not going to run into this bird unless you're birding in the desert. And their range doesn't overlap a whole lot with the common raven, but they do a little bit, so it's good to pay attention. The Chihuahuan Raven is going to be smaller than the common raven, but again, size can be kind of tough to tell. So you can also tell them apart by voice. The Chihuahuan Raven has a higher pitched sound compared to the deeper croak of the common raven. If we go back and look at the range here, just to show you the overlap, this is the range of the common raven, and this is the range of the Chihuahuan Raven. So a little bit of overlap, but the common raven prefers higher elevations, while the Chihuahuan Raven prefers more of the desert habitats. Next, we've got the American crow, classic bird found throughout most of the country except for the far southwest. Generally pretty distinctive, and there aren't a whole lot of confusion species for a good chunk of its range. In the west, you'll run into the common raven, then as well as in certain parts of the east. Smaller than both ravens. Also, their calls are a lot different. Crows do more of a caw, 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 while the ravens are more of like a deeper croak. When crows fly, they have more of a rounded wing compared to ravens, and they also have a squared tail compared to more of a wedge-shaped tail of the common raven, which we'll get to a little bit more of that later in the video. As far as range goes, very widespread bird across pretty much the whole country. And there is one more crow species that we haven't done yet, and that is the fish crow. They are pretty hard to tell apart from the American crow. For most of the country, range is a great way to separate them. As you can see, more of a coastal bird here, and then also in the Mississippi River area. The best way to separate the fish crow from the American crow is by voice. American crows make the distinctive caw, 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 while the fish crow is more of like a nasally Again, as far as looks go, they are practically identical, so that is not really going to be a reliable way to separate them. Voice is really pretty much the only way that you have to reliably separate them. Again, fish crows are a little bit smaller, but unless they're standing side by side, that is pretty much impossible to tell. Before we move on to the next section, I just want to tell you about this new series that I just started a couple months ago called 3 Minute Thursday. Every Thursday, I pick one bird and do a deep dive into it, whether that's how to find them, what their range is, field marks. I cover it all in 3 minutes or less. So if you want to check out my playlist of all the 3 Minute Thursdays that I made, go and tap up here. It's also linked in the video description below. So now let's go on to separating crows from ravens. On the right here we have the common raven, and then on the left we've got the American crow. Size is by far the best way to separate them if they're side by side or at least close to each other. Common ravens are much larger than American crows. Another good way to separate them is because the common raven is larger than the American crow, it's going to flap less often, and it prefers to glide more often. And so that's a great way to separate them. Also, in flight, we've got some tail differences. Here on the left, we've got the American crow, and on the right, we've got a common raven. If we look at the tail, on the American crow, you'll notice that it is more squared off compared to the common raven, where it's more of like a wedge shape. So that can be a great way to separate them when size isn't the best way to go about it, because maybe they're really far away, or you just don't feel comfortable judging size. Also, you can look at the bill size and shape. On the raven here, we've got a very, very thick bill compared to the thinner bill of the crow. And then also, ravens have shaggy neck feathers right here, which crows do not. And so I mentioned my new series 3 Minute Thursday earlier in the video, and if you want to check out the full playlist to up your bird identification game today, go and tap right here.